$97. Call and order your Nano hearing aids right now.
Welcome back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. Tax day is just a month away. If you're not finished filing your personal or your business taxes by April 15th, you'll need to file for an extension. But before you do any of that, you may want to have a conversation with the folks over at Tax Network USA. Cameron Kinsey is a spokesperson for the group and joins us live this morning with more. Good to see you.
Thanks so much for having me on, Terrence.
Always a pleasure. So I would imagine this is crunch time for the folks over at Tax Network USA, particularly since we're a month out from tax day.
Absolutely. We've had an influx of calls from people anywhere from small business owners, W-2 employees, just to give the audience, to know a little bit about us. We're a team of experienced tax professionals, CPAs, enrolled agents, tax attorneys, who really just specialize in helping individuals and businesses resolve IRS issues and state tax issues. So just like you said, with crunch time and filing, make sure to give us a call if you need.
And what are the various services that you offer? This isn't just tax preparation alone. You guys really are a boutique, if you will, when it comes to tax issues.
Yes, absolutely. We work with everyday Americans, business owners, self-employed individuals, retirees, W-2 employees, like I said, who found themselves in trouble with the IRS. And these are issues that basically a lot of Americans face. You're not alone in this. You know, whether somebody owes back taxes, is facing an audit, or really just simply needs expert guidance to get their finances in order, we step in to help. We've also represented high-profile clients and businesses. Really just at the end of the day, though, our goal remains the same: protecting people from IRS overreach that we've seen, financial hardship, and make sure not to panic during this time either. I know that it's very easy to ignore the letters in the mail, etc. So making sure that you tackle that head on and having people in your corner who know the ins and outs of tax law is very important.
Is it fair to say that Tax Network USA clients aren't just paying for the services, but they're also paying for the relationships that your experts have built?
Yes, we don't want you on hold for hours at a time. We want you to be able to have dinner and some quality time with your friends and your loved ones. You know, we start the process. It's very streamlined. We start with a full financial review just to ensure our clients take advantage of every deduction and credit that's available to you. And from there, our team prepares and files their returns accurately and on time, making sure that you don't have to do that yourself, right? And they stay compliant. They don't trigger any red flags to the IRS. And we have facilitated those relationships, and we do basically act as a liaison between you and the IRS. So unlike basic tax prep services, we offer year-round support. We help clients strategically plan to minimize their tax burden and avoid future issues during that.
And your experts know the nuances of the tax law, which is pretty expansive. And let's just be honest, most people don't understand it. It's over our heads, and it's way too confusing to try to even delve into. And that's another benefit.
Oh, for sure. I mean, IRS audits can be intimidating. This whole process can be intimidating. We make sure that our clients aren't bullied or taken advantage of. We review your case, gather all the necessary documentation, present them in front of the IRS so that you don't have to face it alone. If an audit results in an unfair penalty, we really just don't stop there. We immediately file an appeal. We fight back. So our team does know the ins and outs of the tax code inside and out. So we challenge the IRS and use their own rules many times. We're able to prove errors in their assessment and get penalties reduced or eliminated in this process.
So what do you say to the people who are listening now saying, oh, well, it's only a month and my tax issue is a pretty complex when it's not enough time?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've had many success stories at Tax Network USA. We helped clients settle six-figure tax debts for just a fraction of what they owed. One recent case involved a business owner who was drowning in $300,000 worth of tax debt due to payroll issues. So the IRS was on the verge of shutting down his company, but our team negotiated an offer in compromise. He ended up settling for just over $20,000. We also had a single mom recently who had her wage garnished over a tax bill she didn't even know that she had. We stepped in, got the garnishment released, and negotiated a fair resolution with the IRS. So every case is different. We want you to know that you're not alone in these issues. A lot of people face the same struggles, but it's better to get ahead of it instead of waiting.
Yeah. Cameron Kinsey, we appreciate your time.
Saddle up, Buttercup. It's time to ride into another big, beautiful American sunrise. I'm Steve Gruber. It's the Steve Gruber Show, fighting for you in this country from the foxhole of freedom every single day. You can also find me on Twitter, X, Truth, Rumble, Facebook, of course, and TikTok, too. All the places to save you. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, it is day 51, I think. Where are the Epstein files? Where are the JFK files? Where are the files? Number two, peace in Ukraine? Maybe. A major breakthrough as Ukraine agrees to a ceasefire through an American deal worked out by Marco Rubio. Now we have to see what Vladimir Putin will say. And number three, it's all about the economy. Still is. You hear Democrats desperately trying to point to the price of eggs 50 days into Donald Trump's presidency as a clear sign of his failure. Or Chuck Schumer blathering about where is the golden age of America, sign of his failure. Or Chuck Schumer blathering about where is the golden age of America. It's more evidence of the tone-deaf left that is also claiming that millions of Trump voters are now having buyer's remorse. Well, I can assure you that's flat out false. In fact, the Trump voters I know, that, by the way, is a lot of people, there's not one that I've heard that is disappointed by the vote they made for Donald Trump or his return to the White House. Not one. In fact, folks, what I'm hearing is that they're getting exactly what they voted for, and they're pretty happy about it. Are you? They're thrilled to see the number of illegals invading our country almost down to zero. They're ecstatic when they see Trump go to bat for them and for women in sports and for peace, which, by the way, it appears that the president has come a step closer to delivering after that big Secretary of State Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz came out of those closed-door meetings in Saudi Arabia. And I want you to hear it. This is the announcement they made yesterday. It's a big deal. Listen.
Today, we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. I want to personally we both want to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Majesty, for hosting us, for making this possible. They've been instrumental in this process, and we're very grateful to them for hosting us here today. And hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians, and we hope that they'll say yes to peace. The ball is now in their court. And but again, the president's objective here is, number one, above everything else, he wants the war to end. And I think today Ukraine has taken a concrete step in that regard. We hope the Russians will reciprocate.
Buyer's remorse? Buyer's remorse. No, I don't think so. This is what he said he was going to get done. He's going to end the wars. He said on day one, but look, you know these things take a little bit of time. It's 50 days, I guess, right? Not very long. Another big win for President Trump in his effort to end the more than 3-year war in Ukraine. But of course, he still needs to get the Russians on board. And that's not certain yet. But I would say the sentiment is right that it's not a matter of if this war is going to end, but how soon. And you have to say it's the work of Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, Steve Witkoff, all of these people. Incredible team. A big victory for the president early in his second term that he promised to deliver. And with wins in Gaza and Ukraine, he's not disappointing those he made those promises to. And that, of course, is us. He made that promise to you and to me and to all of us. And he's keeping it. Something else that Trump voters really like is his take-no-guff attitude. And that means leveling the playing field in a variety of areas that he says America has been getting screwed for a very long time. And that includes how much we were previously paying the World Health Organization, paying to be in the Paris Climate Accords. And more recently, he pointed again to NATO and the United Nations, where we paid by far the most of any nation and seemed to get less. And we, of course, footed the bill for the bulk of the defense of Ukraine these past many years. Which brings me to the tariffs that the president has been dropping on a host of countries, most notably Mexico and Canada. Some took effect just today. Both of which had fought back, but at least to begin with, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has already made concessions and lowered the pressure and put some of those tariffs on hold. But up north, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tried to puff up his chest for a moment before backing down and getting whacked on Sunday. He got in an argument with Donald Trump. He got tossed. And then the Premier of Ontario, that's like being the governor up there, Dougie Ford, he's really been feeling his oats lately, and he was threatening to first jack up the tariffs on electricity sold to the United States to 25%. And then he threatened to cut off all juice to the U.S., which is weird because we get almost no electricity at all in places like Michigan and New York from Ontario, the two states that he specifically mentioned in his threats as being his targets. President Trump didn't bat an eye and said, no problem, in 24 hours we'll raise the price of steel and aluminum tariffs to 50% coming in from Canada. Well, it didn't take long before old Fat Doug realized he didn't have a leg to stand on or a card to play and thought he'd just roll off to the old buffet for another helping. Fat Doug Ford folded on electricity tariffs and other threats on America immediately, in fact, after Trump proposed those 50% tariffs. Listen.
As we're duking it out back and forth, China's laughing. They're building an arsenal of critical minerals, and we have to work together. We're the two greatest nations in the world. Let's build that AMCAN fortress. And as for the aluminum and steel, 16% of the aluminum that the U.S. makes is produced in the U.S. The rest, vast majority of it, comes from Quebec, Canada, along with steel. But let's work together. Cooler heads have to prevail here, or we'll decimate both economies, and we're seeing it over the last few days.
Make no mistake, I voted for every bit of this. Every single bit of this I voted for. I'm proud of the President of the United States. I am grateful for my president. I support my president because I love a strong America that is not going to play games like this. No, we simply say, you know what? How about we get nothing from Ontario going forward? Nothing at all. How would you like that? And then Fat Doug just folds like a cheap suit. So I think it's important for you to understand the numbers. And because the Democrats are playing some game about Donald Trump wrecking the economy with tariffs, I have this for you, the truth about tariffs and Canada and what we pay, what we were on the receiving end of. Here's a guest speaker.
Do you believe these insane tariffs that the U.S. is bullying Canada with? 250% for milk, 291% for butter, 208% for whey, 241% for cheese? How could we do this to our neighbor? Oh, wait, those are actually tariffs that Canada imposed on the U.S. last year, whereas for the same goods, we imposed the following tariffs. 10% for cheese, 10% for butter, 5% for milk, 0% for whey. It's interesting that since Trump announced tariffs, everyone became an econ PhD who's confident that they know exactly what tariffs will do to the economy. But while you've seen Trump fighting for tariffs, you haven't seen that before no one was fighting for us at all on the global scale.
I was just listening to Kevin O'Leary before I came on the air here. Mr. Wonderful, you know him from Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary. He's a Canadian, by the way. A very successful businessman. I've been involved in a number of different things. He says, don't listen to the noise, look for the signal. And he said the signal here from Trump is and has been, it's time to bring these two economies together so that America and Canada are basically one economy. Because we'd be by far bigger than we are now, and China would never be able to catch up. If America and Canada get rid of all tariffs and work cohesively together, we will crush the world. More on this after the break. Welcome to it. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Remember, follow me on Twitter. I need 25 new followers right now. know, Kevin O'Leary's idea that Trump's plan here is to build one single economy makes complete sense, of course, and it's what he is doing. Look, if Donald Trump makes a bunch of noise somewhere about something, O'Leary's right. Look for the signal. What's he actually trying to accomplish? Bunch of noise here. Oh, threads the needle right here, right down the middle. It's called making a deal. Doug Ford folded like a cheap suit in like 2 hours after Trump said, fine, you want to play that game? We'll give you 50% tariffs. We'll start right now. And he's not joking. He would do it. To drive home the point, you're not going to mess with us. And I like a strong American president. Is there going to be some short-term pain? Yes, look at the markets. I've taken it on the chin for the past couple of weeks. Sure, I get it. But I expect it to come back and come back in spades. Now, yesterday afternoon, the president gathered with a bunch of business leaders to discuss the economy and how he plans to build America into an even bigger economic powerhouse. Something came up there, too. Listen.
A lot of investment coming into our country, much more than I've ever seen. Apple is investing $500 billion. IBM was with us yesterday, and they're investing a lot. Just companies all over. I could name them. You've read most of them, many of them. But hundreds of billions of dollars is being invested. That wouldn't have happened if I didn't win the election, number one. And I think, number two, the tariffs are having a tremendously positive impact. They will have, and they are having. We have car companies that are not building in Mexico now. They're building in the United States. Some of them, the plants were already started, and they stopped construction. And now they're going to build in the United States. It was very unfair that they'd build in Mexico and sell them across the border with no tax, no nothing. They'd take away our jobs. They'd close up places in Michigan and all over the country, and they'd build them in Mexico. In many cases, they were owned by China. Built in Mexico, owned by China. And that's all stopped now. They're all coming here.
Yeah, they're all coming here. The Apple Academy in Detroit, the Honda plant in Indiana, the list goes on. And that's just the beginning of the investments. Japan says bringing $1 trillion of investment here, $1 trillion with a T. You see, it's about the economy. And America's been getting ripped off by politicians and a lot of other people for a very long time here and around the world. I'm proud to see President Trump saying, we're not doing this anymore. We're going to make sure this country is first in line, always, and we are back to where we belong. Then we can start to look at how we're going to spend money with others, but that will have to wait until we get our house in order. Investment is coming to America. President Trump says the tariffs are working, in fact. Here's more.
Honda is building a massive plant in different places, Indiana, South Carolina, but also in Michigan, a lot in Michigan. A lot of activity is happening. They're looking all over the place for places, and that's because there is a good spirit, there's a renewed spirit, and also, very importantly, the tariffs are, they don't want to pay 25% or whatever it may be. It may go up higher, maybe go up higher. Look, the higher it goes, the more likely it is they're going to build. And ultimately, the biggest win is not the tariff. That's a big win. That's a lot of money. But the biggest win is if they move into our country and produce jobs. That's a bigger win than the tariffs themselves. But the tariffs are going to be throwing off a lot of money to this country. And we've been ripped off for years by other countries, many, many decades. And they were doing the same thing. But I think we'll do it better. And I think we have a bigger advantage because we really are the piggy bank. They weren't.
Yeah. And, it's also about the people he has put on the team around him. This is not 2017, that's for sure. President Trump came in with something you cannot fake: experience. And he selected people for key positions that he knows and knows well, and knows will do exactly what he wants and do it for the American people. It's called holding people accountable. And his team will be holding swamp creatures accountable for everything they do when they're out of sight. I would suggest anyone thinking about playing games this time around, you might want to think twice. Because if you screw up or you break the law, well, there's really going to be trouble. More leakers found in DHS are being pursued. They will be fired at a minimum. Many could spend years in prison. This is what I mean. Listen.
That we have been utilizing polygraphs for 3 weeks now, and that we do have 2 DHS employees that are on administrative leave, and they're going to be facing consequences for what they've done to leak these operations. So they could face up to 10 years in federal prison for what they've done. And what they've done is, by leaking the information on these ops, is they put law enforcement lives in jeopardy. So we've got a lot of tools. I've got a lot of authorities under DHS. I'm going to use every single one of them to stop these leakers and make sure that they face significant consequences for what they're doing.
Oh, and another thing. If you think you can just sit there and throw stones at the members of his team, let me tell you something. They're ready for you, too. You see, everyone on Trump's team is ready for the curveballs and the gotcha questions. We've seen this act before. They know they're coming. They always know they're coming. Caroline Leavitt, no exception, as she fielded this nonsense from an AP reporter, and, well, she crushed him. Here it is.
You're welcome. If we could just step back for a second. When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs. And I'm curious why he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people, and the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all 3 of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have. They don't get charged on foreign companies. They get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press.
No, I can understand her regret there. Anyhow, it brings me to the idea that Democrats are going to shut down the government on Friday. Good luck, Chuck. You go ahead, you do that. Let's see how that turns out for you. You see, the Democrats don't have any cards left. Everyone knows it, except for maybe the Democrats. You're up to speed. When I come back, Greenland's elections, another win for Donald Trump after the break. All right, you need to know this. Donald Trump won the proxy vote in Greenland. That's the way it looks. The opposition center-right party, Democratic, it's spelled funny, but that's Democratic with a K and a couple of A's anyhow. 30% of the vote. The Nalarok campaign to sever ties with Denmark more quickly came in at 24.5%, so collectively they're at 55% of the vote. The incumbent ruling party, the leftists, got 21.4%, and the other left-wing party got 14%. The anti-globalists, the conservatives, win again. That's what happened here. The anti-globalists, the conservatives, win again. And that means that they want investment. That's what they're talking about. These are the people that want investment. From whom? From Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States. They like what he's saying. All right. Did you know that scammers can literally steal your home right out from under you? The FBI calls it house stealing. You've heard it here. It's a growing real estate scam targeting American homeowners, and here's how it works. Criminals will forge your signature on a document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee, file it with a local clerk's office, whatever it takes, and just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. It's really frightening. They can take loans against your equity. If you've lived there for 10 or 15 years, you have piles of equity in your home. They don't care about your TV or your jewelry or your safe. They care about that gold mine that is your equity. When was the last time you checked your title? If you like P, the answer is, I've never done that. And that's exactly what scammers are counting on. That's why I trust Home Title Lock. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. Here's what you get. Immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud should occur, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title at no additional cost. Here's the best part. I've teamed up with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report so you can find out if you're already a victim and access your personal title. And you get it figured out. It's a $250 value for just signing up. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use my promo code Gruber or click on the link in the description. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. Get peace of mind right now. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. The Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. Turning everything on its ear. That's what Donald Trump is doing from here to Greenland to Ukraine, everywhere. Ukraine, obviously, peace is in the air as they accept a ceasefire agreement. In Greenland, they vote to surge right. 55% vote to surge right, which means embrace Donald Trump and reject Denmark and Copenhagen. Yeah, that happens. And here at home, man, they're turning things on their head, too, when it comes to unions. The Department of Education, apparently half of it is going to be eliminated quickly. Here to sort it out with me, Mark Mix, president of the National Right to Work Committee, which is a 2.8 million member public policy organization. He also serves as the president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. Mark, nice to see you again.
Steve, good to be with you. You never lack for news on your show. That's for
we
sure.
do not. Never a dull moment. 50 days, 51 days, whatever it's been. And it's funny. I think about how hard we're working. We're just trying to keep up with this guy. I mean, he's 78 years old. We're doing everything we can to keep up with this guy. But anyhow, let's focus on the unions for a moment here, Mark. Look, there's going to be a lot of lawfare because the only thing these folks have left when Trump comes in for the Department of Education, for example, and says, we're going to get rid of half of it. They go to court. They go to court. It's all they can do. They're going to lose. But my God, there's a realignment happening, isn't there?
Yeah, indeed there is, Steve. And, you and I have talked about this before. This is the idea that we're recognizing unions to bargain for government employees. And whether it be the Social Security Administration, whether it be the National Labor Relations Board, whether it be the TSA, or whether it be the Department of Education, union officials, the one tool they have left in the box is lawsuits, and then judges that are trying to overturn everything that Donald Trump is trying to do to basically reform government, to make it more efficient, and to basically save us taxpayers a little bit of money.
Look, the union that I think that has really still escaped for the most part is the one that's about to get it. That's the teachers union. Now, I don't know what the Department of Education staff reductions are going to mean. Let's see here. At the VA, 15% workforce reduction. You go around government, it's just paring it back everywhere. And it means a change of attitude about going to work. It means you actually have to go to work, for example. I can't believe that people flipped out when they said, hey, can you tell us 5 things you did last week? Mark, I bet I could ask you 5 things you've done already today in respect to the job you do, right?
I made coffee. Steve.
Well, that's one. So did I.
That's one, yeah.
1775, baby. That's right.
Yeah, right. No, it's right. The efficiency is something that I think everyone's been concerned about. You look at the growth of the Leviathan government here in Washington, D.C. and state capitals around the country. I mean, Steve, we're at a point now where the union movement is literally 50% of government workers. I mean, right. The AFL-CIO they're not steel workers anymore. The steel workers are representing government employees now, but they're not folks in industry or manufacturing. They're in government. And that's the problem. And that's what we're seeing the reform of right now, hopefully.
Well, let me ask you about this, because, the UAW is a fraction of what it was, say, in 1979 when there were 1.5 million UAW members. Now it's less than 500,000. But, okay, so Trump announces this new auto plant, for example, in Indiana. It's going to be a giant plant for Honda. Honda doesn't want unions. Indiana, I'm going to guess, might be a right-to-work state. I don't know for sure. But, I mean, these are the battles you're going to have, right?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, the idea of the manufacturing industry when it comes to automotives or autos is basically, it is basically immigrated or emigrated to right-to-work states around the country, including Indiana, which passed a right-to-work law in 2012.
So let me ask you about that. Let me ask you specifically. Last year, maybe the year before, but in the last couple of years, Michigan became the first and only state ever to get rid of right-to-work. Michigan is the automobile capital of the world even now. And instead of going to Michigan, Honda says, we're going to build our cars in Indiana. I think that might have had something to do with this right-to-work and not right-to-work thing.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Look, manufacturing jobs in right-to-work states, the growth is 5 times greater in right-to-work states than forced union states. Private sector job growth is double that in right-to-work states. So this notion that, the United Auto Workers Union is somehow promoting the automotive industry, Ford went to Tennessee and Kentucky to build their new manufacturing facilities, their battery plants. Those are both right-to-work states. So, we believe there's been an experiment in this idea of individual freedom and manufacturing You take the tariffs, set those aside, take the trade policy, set that aside. The one experiment we've seen in the United States over the last 50 years is that right-to-work states are benefiting from their ability to let workers choose whether or not they want to financially support a labor union. The states that continue to allow force and coercion, like Michigan, unfortunately, for the last year, they are losing jobs and losing opportunities for the people that they claim should be part of their state and part of the growth of their state. But that's happening in the right-to-work states.
Well, and that, I mean, nothing makes it more clear than what you just said. If you've got a choice, if you're a manufacturer, whatever you might be, Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, I mean, you're naming these states where people are taking their businesses. And we're not talking about little businesses. What's it take to build an auto plant in 2025, 26? This is a massive investment. And this is in construction, in waterworks, in trades. And then you get the people that go work at the factory. I mean, it covers everyone, right?
Yeah, indeed. And, that's the private sector as well. And again, back to your point about the public sector, we've got to retool the public sector in the same way. I mean, Franklin Roosevelt, Steve, agreed with you and me that we shouldn't be unionizing government employees.
That's
I mean,
right.
If Franklin Roosevelt could be on our side, and particularly your side, Steve, we ought to follow his advice in that regard.
Well, if he's on my side, we trust him. But public sector, he said that even Franklin Roosevelt, the guy that put together the New Deal, said public sector unions no, because all they're doing, they're gambling with your money. You got one piece of government, another piece of government arguing over your money and how it's going to be spent. And we've seen this go on for years. Oh, you know what? Give me your votes. I'll turn out my union people. And they're paying for it with taxpayer money. That's the problem with public sector unions, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're not even turning out their people anymore, Steve. When you look at the private sector, we know based on exit polling and just common sense in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Ohio, that rank and file union members overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. While the union officials spent $210 to Kamala Harris for every $1 they sent to Donald Trump, but yet rank and file union members and working class people across the United States joined with Trump and his agenda for a secure border, for smaller government, for lower regulations, for lower taxes. It's all there, and if we continue to push this like we're doing today with the government sector and the private sector is doing in states that have right-to-work laws, I think we're going to see dramatic change, and it's going to be great for America.
Let me ask you this. I mentioned Michigan being the only state that ever went back the other way, and it has done no benefit to the state as a result. But how many states are looking at Tennessee and Kentucky and Indiana and saying, look at what they're getting that are right-to-work states that are thinking about going the other way? Do you have some people that you think this year might become right-to-work states?
Well, we've got a fairly robust state legislative program to push right-to-work laws. Unfortunately, we lost a right-to-work law in New Hampshire by 10 Republican votes. We had 20. The vote count was 20, but 10 Republicans voted against us. And we'll there in Montana, we have a bill that's pending in the state Senate and the state House up there. We're working on passing one there. They're not easy to do, Steve, because organized labor is still, notwithstanding their dwindling numbers, their revenue and their money is higher than it's ever been. And part of that's the money they receive from the federal government, to your point.
Fair enough. Mark, always appreciate you being here. Mark Mix. Right to Work Committee, 2.8 million. I was going to say 2.5. You're bigger than that. Almost 3 million people. Mark, keep up the good fight, because I think that you're going to get more states as they see what happens in these states that are right to work, and all of these companies come in and build these beautiful factories to create jobs and opportunity. It's hard to ignore after a while, Mark, and I don't think they can. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it, Steve. Always good to be with you.
Always good to have you. He's always got a smile on his face because he's always fighting for the little guy, which I appreciate. Mark Mix. When we come back, Dr. Peter McCullough will be here. How about that avian flu? How about those egg prices? We'll talk about it coming up. The conversation about egg prices has come up. You've heard it. You've heard people talk about it, the culling of birds, bird flu, all of this. You've heard about this. And you realize that 150 million birds were culled by the Biden administration by edict. They said you have to get rid of these birds. Doesn't seem to be stopping the spread. And I wasn't terribly concerned about it, but I heard about some variants that have come up. One that has caused fatalities, which is concerning to me. So I decided to get a hold of my good friend, Dr. Peter McCullough. He is the Chief Scientific Officer at the Wellness Company. He joins me now. Doctor, thank you for being here. Look, H5N1 bird flu has been around for a number of years, but there's a new strain. It's deadlier. It's more dangerous, and I think maybe I should be concerned about it. What say you?
To explain, the original source is called the clade of the virus. So the clade is 23446. And the subvariant that was dominant for several years now, 2021 to 2024, was the B3.13. That caused the mild pink eye in the workers. That was essentially it. Then a teenager in British Columbia got very sick, went on the ventilator, ECMO, life support, survives. A man dies in Louisiana. A toddler and a man die in Cambodia. And there is the emergence of a variant D1.1 that looks like now the virus can attach to human receptors in the lungs, Steve, and it doesn't look good. The outbreak has gone on for far too long because of this counterproductive biosecurity measure of killing all the flocks of chickens and allowing fresh infection of a new flock. It's allowed too much time for genetic misadventure.
So please explain that. Basically, what you've just said to me is by culling 150 million birds that was directed by the Biden administration and then creating a new flocks of birds, it has rejuvenated the cycle of this virus. I think that's what you're telling me.
Right. The process that occurs is called genetic reassortment. The influenza viral strains can cohabitate with one another. They can swap parts. If you let this go on too long, then actually a serious strain can develop. Now, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Intervention, CEPI Worldwide Center, has issued official alarms. Alarm bells are going off in every public health agency around the world. And I think what happened is bad policy has allowed this to happen.
So it is a bad policy. And here's what I'm confused about, Doctor. I hear those on that side of the aisle, Joe Biden's administration and the folks associated with it, follow the science. That's been their battle cry for years. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it was follow the science. Well, wouldn't they know that mass culling was a mistake and it would create this life cycle, if you will, for this virus to rejuvenate and to deviate and become more dangerous?
It was a mistake because the virus was carried by mallard ducks, wild ducks. They keep reinfecting the farms. It's not like you can eradicate it in a farm and you're done. The important point here is that our public health agencies didn't follow the science on natural immunity. If the animals were just allowed to get natural immunity like they always have in the past, this thing would have been done 2 years ago.
So here we are cleaning up the mess of follow the science from politicians who don't understand the science at all. Now, in response, the Wellness Company, where you work, they have initiated a program to offer free medications to frontline farmers to protect against bird flu. Please explain what this is and how it works.
This is the Prevent and Protect program. Our farm workers can go to a website right now, get their own individually prescribed bird flu kit. They can start using a dilute iodine spray and in the nose and the mouth before and after work. If they come down with symptoms, they can get a laboratory PCR test, at their doctor's office or emergency department, but start treatment immediately with oseltamivir, and if bacterial secondary infection, azithromycin. So we have our workers protected. All the serious cases so far in the deaths, Steve, none of them were using nasal sprays and gargles, and none of them got early treatment.
Yeah. Well, a vaccine for the bird flu, whether in humans or livestock, will work. Look, the apprehension about vaccines following what happened with COVID is very high. I would never do it. If you told me I should do it, I might consider it. But I think reluctance and avoidance of vaccines is at an all-time high here and globally, and for good reason. What do you say in that area?
There's a piece out in British Medical Journal saying vaccinating the birds and the poultry will make it worse. It's a disaster. The virus will become stronger and more resistant to vaccine immunity in humans. So far, the CSL Seqirus vaccine actually caused human death in normal volunteer trials. It looks dangerous, and even worse on the horizon is the Moderna messenger RNA bird flu human vaccine, or the CEPI self-replicating messenger RNA vaccines. Humans don't need bird flu vaccines. They simply need prevention measures, nasal sprays, throat sprays, gargles, and early treatment kits. The wellness company has stepped in the middle of this policy madness to bring a practical solution to America.
Let me ask you something totally unrelated here just for a moment, Doctor. I saw this clip on social media, and I know you're pretty active on social media. You might have seen the same thing. It was about the measles. And I saw a clip from about 1969 on the Brady Bunch laughing about the one kid coming home from school. He had red spots, a little bit of a temperature. It's the only illness that you have that you don't actually feel sick, and you get to stay home and play games with your friends. Compared to NBC's Law and Order Special Victims Unit that had a kid with measles, and they were shutting down hospitals and this mass hysteria. Just the messaging about such things has changed dramatically, hasn't it?
It appears to be the same disease. A paper by Miller and colleagues, UK, from the entire UK registry, 1963. The rate of death before ICUs in modern care was 0.2 per thousand.
Yeah.
Now we're told 2 deaths in the nationwide outbreak, and one of them confirmed, one of them not confirmed, but no information on what type of care they received. I am suspicious that these are cases that were undertreated and could have been saved.
There you go. If you want to know more about the Wellness Company and all the work that Dr. Peter McCullough does, go to twc.health/Gruber. You can get involved with their medications, their supplements. Everything's there for you. They're there to focus on your good health. twc.health/Gruber. You can save some money using that promo code as well. Dr. McCullough, it's always an education, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. twc.health/Gruber. Promo code Gruber. You'll save 10% on anything you find that you need there. I'll be right back. also has a bogus Telegram account. What does that mean? Look, I don't know the point of this, so I'm just going to bring it to your attention. I'm active on social media a lot, as you may know, right? I put videos out on X and on Facebook, and I started a TikTok channel about, Thanksgiving, I guess. Ivy points out to me yesterday, hey, here's a fake channel. It's got 13,000 followers. So if you follow me on TikTok, it's at Steve Gruber Show. One continuous word. The bogus account is Steve Gruber _show. It's bogus. And it's got all the same videos. It's got thousands of views and 13,000 followers. So, I can verify an account on X. I can verify an account on Facebook. TikTok, I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of this bogus account. I have 13,000 more followers, and I appreciate you doing that. If you're one of those folks, would you go check? We've got about 25,500 followers since Thanksgiving, 4 million views on TikTok and growing, and it's more of the same. But so here's what I need you to do today. Help me in social media. Be one of the 25 new followers on X today. I still call it Twitter a lot. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, 25 there. Facebook, help us there. Go to Facebook and follow. We've got this huge growth on Facebook. Really remarkable. And TikTok, too. At Steve Gruber Show is the handle. At Steve Gruber Show is the handle. And I'd appreciate your support as we continue to grow this thing all across the country. Now, time well spent. You can spend some of it watching my social media videos. I think that is time well spent. More time well spent would be taking one of these free courses at Hillsdale College. 40 free courses where you can learn about the Constitution. You can learn about C.S. Lewis. You can learn about Christianity here in America. You can learn about the books 1984, Brave New World, Darkness at Noon, and what happens when freedom is lost. That's the brand new series being hosted by Larry Arnn, the brilliant president of Hillsdale College. Help you understand why faith, family, and friends are worth fighting for. Go right now to GruberForHillsdale.com to enroll. There's no cost. Easy to get started. GruberForHillsdale.com. Do something good with your day. Join me on social media. That's number one. Go to Hillsdale and educate yourself. GruberForHillsdale.com. It's free. All right, we got a lot more coming up for the next hour. You don't want to miss it. We're having a good time with 1775 coffee on the Steve Gruber Show.